Keep my hands on myself. Pick up dust them all, put them back up on the shelf. Little baby girl is in need.
Thank you so much for being here today. Really, really excited to see faces, both old and new, here at Karma. We have a wonderful show today with two fantastic guests. I'd actually like to dive right into it, so let's bring up our first guest, Mr. Michael Kruger, VP of Marketing at One Kings Lane.
Hey, how's it going? Good.
Now I'm out here looking like revenge, feeling like a 10, the best I ever been.
So Michael,
Yes.
tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you? How did you get to where you are today?
I think about that every morning. Who am
I think about that too.
It's
About you, not
existential.
about me.
Yeah. So it's a great question. How would I summarize that? Lead the marketing team at One Kings Lane. Have been there for about a year. We're deep in sort of 2.0. I think most people have hopefully heard of the brand from 1.0, which is the flash sale, boom and bust. We believe there's a huge opportunity in home retailing overall. But started my career with business school at the University of Minnesota. Grew up in Minneapolis, so if you want to build a career in design-driven retail, you sort of just stumble your way to Target. So grew up there, went on the JCPenney roller coaster, Ron Johnson turnaround exercise, circa 2012. For the non-millennials in the room who are old enough to remember that.
I knew your head looked like it had been spun around.
Yeah, exactly. And then 3 years in San Francisco helping e-commerce startups figure out their brand and go-to-market strategy.
How is life in New York City treating you?
Other than that, my children hate sharing a room in an apartment. It's awesome. I love it.
Michael, you have a long career in marketing. Have you noticed that sometimes we as marketers are guilty of using, dare I say, jargon, buzzwords, words that aren't really value add? They're not 1 + 1 = 3. They don't move the ball down the court.
I have a lot of career self-loathing around this issue.
Well, for that reason, we designed a game just for you and me to play.
Perfect.
What's the name of the game, folks?
What is the name of the game?
It's marketing buzzwords that make you want to vomit. Okay, and here's how the game is going to work. Michael, you and I each have a whiteboard right next to us, along with a Sharpie pen. We're going to go 3 rounds.
I have to
from-
wait for the paddles.
You have to wait for the paddle. That's
like more fun.
that's an after-hours exercise. Here's how this is going to work. On the count of 3, we write down the most revolting, nausea-inducing buzzword that we can think of, the most overused, abused marketing jargon there is out there. Then we're going to take an applause-meter from the audience to see which words they loathe and detest more. But
This is like golf. Like lower is better or more is better?
more applause is better.
Most hated.
So most hated. Reach down deep into that bag of reviled buzzwords and pull out your best. But you're not going to have to take my word for it. We actually have an impartial moderator who's going to come on stage and make a final judgment on which buzzword is more hated by the audience.
Perfect.
Okay. You ready?
Let's do it.
I've got a stinker for you in round 1. Okay. Ready? Go.
You gotta underline it.
Okay.
It's all about the emphasis.
Okay. You want to show your cards first, or should I?
I think you need to go first.
Okay. Omnichannel personalization. Thank you.
All right. Do I have to do like a grand reveal? That was very dramatic. Okay. Who here is from the West Coast, especially Bay Area? Okay, good. I needed that in the audience for this one. Growth hacking.
Okay, let's hold our boards up side by side. Maddie, you want to take the pulse of the audience?
Okay, let's do this one more time. So, omni-channel personalization. Got it. Growth hacking. Guys, that's close. I know no one likes a tie, but that was a tie. MKJE.
Next round.
Okay.
Do better.
Okay. Ready to go?
No. Okay.
Let's do it.
Go.
I like the flourish that you add, Jordan.
You should go first this time.
Okay. Ready? This one went up on my list to prioritize as the morning here went on. Millennials. Oh, okay, great. I forgot there's another room.
I see your millennials, Michael, and I raise you an AI.
Nice.
Little self-dig. AI?
Millennials?
All right, I'm gonna call it Michael wins.
Okay, last round.
Double underline this time. Oh, you
Put a box around it. Yeah.
Graphic designer.
Thank
Put
you.
a box on it.
I'm not ashamed to say that my final marketing buzzword is customer journey. The groans tell me that this is working for it.
I'm gonna go with not technically a word, but 360.
Customer journey.
360?
Oh, Jordan.
Thank you guys.
Makes for one tie.
Thanks so much, Michael. Well, I'm excited to bring up our next guest. He is the CEO of Dynamic Yield, one of our wonderful partners. Please join me in welcoming Liad Agman. Liad, it's great to meet you. I have two questions for you. The first is, as many of you know, Justin Timberlake famously played Sean Parker in The Social Network. So now imagine that we're at the movie premiere of Personalization, the story of the meteoric rise of Dynamic Yield. Who's playing you?
So probably either Tom Cruise without the crazy parts,
You need to jump on your
or yeah, or maybe Charlize Theron.
You didn't ask me. I feel like I would be like Carrot Top, or if I've had a good night's sleep, maybe Ed Sheeran. Okay, I'll definitely go to that movie premiere. Now, a more serious question for you. Which is more important, the right message or delivering it at the right time? And I've been instructed by my handlers that there's a story I need to get out of you about a girl in an alley. And needless to say, I was very curious about what you were going to say.
Me too. No, so actually, there was a previous Castora breakfast that I told this story, and they asked me to tell it again. So it's a bit embarrassing, but so our office is on Fifth Avenue and 18, and across the street there was another office, and like a few months ago I started noticing that they keep looking through my window, and so we started to say hi to each other and stuff like that. And then a few weeks into these high conversations, one of the guys, he was there with a girl, and they were trying to signal that they want my phone number. So we were, I was doing my number 415-511, etc. And they called me, and then the guy at the window is saying, "Hey, my friend here, she thinks that you're cute, and she wants to know if if you want to go out for drinks." Which was the right message, because she was cute. And I would have loved to accept it, so I called my wife, and and she said that I have to be with the kids in the evening, so it was definitely a wrong time for the right message. So that I think that was my anecdote for the right message at the wrong time. So I hope it lived to the expectations.
Heartbreak, it has everything, the highs, the lows. Well, thank you, gentlemen, so much for joining me today. To ease into our program before we get to the heavy-hitting questions, I'd like us all to play a game together, a little game called Never Have I Ever. Familiar with the rules? I'll make a series of statements. I'd like you to raise your paddle, green side up if this is something that you personally have done in your life, red side up if it's something that you've never had the pleasure or the misfortune of doing to date. Ready to go?
Red side if we haven't done it.
If you have not yet done it, yeah. Okay. Never have I ever taken a Skype interview in my underpants. Let me rephrase that. Never have I
have
ever.
a clarifying question.
Never have I ever not worn pants to a Skype interview.
So if I've done it, it's green. I went on a TV interview with, with my underpants.
That's awesome.
I'm a red. Business meetings for short. Sorry, Kasora colleagues. Most of the time I'm not wearing pants when we're doing webcams, but never an interview. So unfortunately, no for me.
I worked from home every Friday for a year, so I've definitely worn shorts at least to do some interviewing.
Nice. Okay, upping the stakes a little bit. Never have I ever forgotten a significant other's birthday or anniversary. So green if you have, red if you have not.
Green if you have forgotten, red if you have not.
My admin really takes care of my personal life, so I have everything she's doing for me. It's like to the point that my wife would call her and put something for us on the calendar when it's our anniversary, when it's her birthday. So it's darker, as dark green as you can over here.
I will take. Sorry, I lost track of which one's green and which one's red again.
Green, you've forgotten an anniversary or
Oh.
birthday?
I have not forgotten, only because I'm a shitty work first husband 363 days of the year, and I try to get the anniversary and the birthday right.
Well, I'm ashamed to say that I'm a green, but pro tip, CVS sells really fantastic birthday back-to-school gifts. So in a pinch, it's never too far away. Okay, and lastly, one serious question before we transition to our moderated forum. Never have I ever made a serious, game-changing, jobs-on-the-line decision based on gut and intuition rather than data.
I lost track of the colors, but no. But I'll actually answer it seriously. I think that in the world we are, and I apply a bit from. I used to play poker when I was younger and had time. I think almost every decision we make, you never have perfect data. You have data that helps you qualify a decision, but I would say 90% of my decisions are based on a gut feeling that is powered by data. So, product directions, markets, hires. You never have the perfect picture before you make a decision. You just want to make an informed decision, but I would say gut feeling is 90% of my decisions.
Basically same answer, except I'd add on to that, the best decisions have come from having quant and qual data.
Same answer as both you guys. Nothing to add on top of that. No, but thank you. It's a wonderful transition to kind of the conversation that I was hoping that we can have. And the two of you bring together really interesting perspectives from the technology and service provider side and from the marketer's perspective. Liad, I'd actually like to start with you, given that dynamic yield is such a powerhouse in the world of personalization. I'll start with a question that I'm not too embarrassed to ask, which is, how would you define personalization? And specifically, is segmentation a step on the path to personalization? Is it a separate core competency for an organization? How can you help us make sense of this?
So dynamic yield is an AI-based omni-channel personalization that goes through the entire customer journey. Did I use all the buzzwords? No, but no, kidding. I think that personalization, if we would go and ask everyone to write a few words on what they think personalization is, we would probably get about 50, 60 different answers, because it's a concept, right? It's not something extremely tactical or practical. It's an idea, and then the question is, how do you move towards the idea? And from what we've seen, and we work with, is it recorded? So I know who I can mention. Yeah, so some I can't mention, but so I just give example of some of our customers: IKEA, Urban Outfitters, Under Armour, NBC Group, etc. So the one-to-one is the holy grail, but realistically it takes a long time to get there. So what we have seen is that having a great segmentation strategy is generating enough money and revenue to justify like a much bigger personalization program. And so in everything we do, every result that we show our customers, every result that our platform has, it has the result on average, so for the average customer. And then we start breaking it down into segments because a first-time visitor to a website reacts very differently than a repeat loyal customer. So you can have a message that resonates extremely well with segment A, but terribly with segment B. We see campaigns that work extremely good in California, they don't work well in New York. Weather. So you can go with a campaign that works really well when it's, like 75 degrees outside. But if it's cold and rainy and, like people don't they don't want to go out, that campaign will fail. So you can break down user segments in a granularity that you can provide real insights. And you have to think about the world in a segmented way. So we are big proponents of segmentation and having a great segmentation strategy. And within each segment, then you can use machine learning to optimize the exact creative, the exact copy, etc. But it's easier to manage, as a human brain, is to think segments first, which are the broad strokes, and then machine learning for what happens within a segment.
That's really a great answer, and you touch on a theme that I think has already surfaced and will continue to surface throughout the day, which is this healthy tension, let's say, between the art and the science of marketing. The fact that machine learning can help us optimize the right message, but we need as marketers to be able to identify with the segments, to attach some meaning to who they are and what makes them tick. Michael, question for you. One of the most sought after skills we hear today in the world of marketing is storytelling.
Another bad buzzword.
Oh, darn it, I should have put that one on the list. Okay. Storytelling, what exactly does that mean, that art of storytelling in a world where we are becoming increasingly data-driven? How do you see that?
Yeah. I think on two levels. One is all of the technology, all of the data, to me, especially for an emotion-driven brand, it's a little different for a practical-driven brand where it's about offer delivery and shipping time and those kinds of things. But for an emotional-driven brand, it's got to all be in service of the creative and of the message. And so if you want to call that storytelling, great, but you're essentially communicating with other humans about some sort of deeper value, like Dan talked about in the last segment. But then I think the other piece is what's really changing now, and we're actually hiring for this role. So if you know anybody, but
Graceful shout out.
Exactly. We're getting to a place where media and creative cannot be separate. You have to really understand what's possible in the media to be able to develop a creative plan that goes with that, because we're now telling a story over time, right? Especially in a world where creative is not. It's easy to tell a full story in a 30-second TV spot. It's much harder in like a Facebook ad here followed by a piece of content 2 months later here, right? And so the two really have to come together so that you can know where and how you're telling that story in snippets over time.
At the risk of forcing you to disclose confidential information, are there any particular campaigns, marketing initiatives that you guys have undertaken at One Kings Lane that speak to kind of using the constraints of the ad format to generate creative that really speaks to a particular segment?
Yeah. I think what I would say is, we're learning all the time. We're at the beginning of getting better and better at this. But certainly our content has been heavily, and our content stream and our editorial calendar has been heavily influenced by those metrics and by that feedback loop. So quick, fascinating example that we spent some time on last week. Within the realm of like how to design a beautiful home, there are infinite number of things this room could all think of content stories around. The one of the consistent number one things, especially on Instagram for us, paint color. So fascinating. Makes sense once you hear about it. Like it's tricky. It's really important to a room. But if you had the list of 8,000 possible topics, it would have been hard to pick that one out. And so those types of insights are driving then. They're not driving the narrative. They're driving how we focus the narrative or like the prioritization of where to start.
I'll be following you guys on Instagram now. I think if you were to take a poll, probably 99%, maybe 100% of people in this room would say, yes, personalization is really important. If you were to ask customers how personalized are the communications that they're getting, I expect that number would be much lower. There seems to be this gap where we all acknowledge how crucial it is, and yet it's very difficult to deliver. what are some of the roadblocks or stumbles that you see companies encountering as they embark on this path to personalization?
I think the biggest one is they don't understand how much revenue it contributes. I mean, we see, we see the revenue, the top line revenue growth when you do personalization. And as a CEO, like if I would have known that let's say I'm a CEO of a retailer, and I would have known how much money I could make with personalization, it would have become my top initiative. So I think there's a challenge that in some cases, specifically in the retail industry, but in some others as well, the execs come from merchandising, like they've been buyers. They are not data science people, and they are not technology people. So they don't understand how powerful and important is a technology play. And this is where we're seeing changes. So if we think about like sophisticated companies, again, I mentioned Urban Outfitters or Under Armour, it comes from the top. And when it comes from the top, you allocate the right people and resources to make this program work. And still a lot of companies have the teams segmented by channel. So you have the email team, you have the online advertising team, you have the on-site team, you have an A/B testing team, a product team, but it's the same user. So I'm the same customer, and I see your brand across the entire funnel. It is almost crazy that I'm being handled by 5-6 different teams. So I would say change management and making sure the organization is structured the right way for personalization to scale is the number one drawback there. And then it makes it very easy to figure out, okay, where do I start? So I always believe in starting in where you make a lot of money. So you start with simple initiatives on product pages, on category pages, on optimizing landing pages, and once the money is accumulated, everyone has an appetite to go all in on personalization.
Michael, One Kings Lane is like a fundamentally data-driven organization that doesn't struggle with a lot of the legacy baggage of retailers who've been around for a long time. Is this a challenge that you can relate to, having to articulate the business case for personalization? And if not, are there other challenges that your team has encountered in kind of selling the notion of customer centricity to leadership?
No, actually. I mean, I think in the sense that that we have that DNA. I think what's tricky for us is, as it relates to customer centricity, is to get a deep understanding of the customer when our employee base is not our customer base. From a demographics, psychographics mindset, our customer is a sort of second half of her career urban mom, and that by definition is not the applicant pool that we get. They're in different phases of their careers, and so bringing that in becomes really important because we can't assume that we have an intuitive sense of the customer, and so it becomes that much more important and in some ways more interesting from a sociological sense to try to understand the customer who is fundamentally different than you are personally.
How do you overcome that empathy gap?
Yeah, we try to do a lot of things, both qualitative and quantitative. We measure what content resonates and all those basic things that you would expect, but we also try to understand from a cultural perspective. So we do a monthly report on trends that we think are happening with that customer and a variety of different touch points. So we try to, we know what magazines she reads. We try to read those magazines, just those kinds of immerse ourselves in that life.
That's fascinating. Side note, I used to work for S.C. Johnson on the Raid brand of pesticides. And one of the most fascinating transformational experiences in my career was doing an anthro visit to Tampa, Florida, to do a home visit and see how people actually apply Raid. I should have gone to work for One Kings Lane.
There you go.
I think I made a wrong turn somewhere.
No hazmat suit required, though.
No.
At One Kings Lane.
One final question for you guys, and I'd like to actually address this to both of you. What is one technology or trend emerging today that will fundamentally change the way that we think about our role as marketers over the next couple of years?
Wow, that's an easy question. I don't think in the next 3, 4, 5 years we're going to see anything that is materially different. I mean, I think AR is going to make some changes, but it's going to take time for this technology to mature to be something big. And I think if anything, I'm not I think VR is great for gaming, but AR is going to Like if we look at a 10-year horizon, it's going to change everything.
Talk to us a little about augmented reality. What's the promise, the vision, the reality? Augmented reality.
I mean, it's really just think about of having a computer layer above, your vision that can add contextual data to everything you look at, which is insane. Like if I could look at the crowd and automatically say everyone's names and companies, if I can go in the store with AR glasses and I see price comparison on the fly. So I think if you think about the mobile device, what it really the smartphone did is it democratized information. You don't go anymore into a store without knowing what is the price of a product anywhere else. You can read reviews online, right? We take everything with us. I think with AR, it's just going to be seamless to us as we live, and it sounds science fiction, but we're heading there. What is the implication on retail? I'll leave it to the crowd to think about it. But when I think more tactically, 3 to 5 years, I think that the strengthening of the platforms, so Facebook, and Google and Apple and Amazon, it's inevitable. You see the changes happening in the online advertising space. Safari now blocking third-party cookies. Chrome is about to do so as well. So it really means that we have to succumb to the beasts, which is mainly Facebook and Google and Amazon, and figure out how do we win in a world where they really dominate 80-90% of what users see. And it goes well, and I wasn't paid to say so, but goes well with the Castora theme, it goes well with dynamic yield theme, because you can start doing CRM marketing at scale with these platforms, which is something that you just couldn't do 5 years ago. 5 years ago, I couldn't take a list of my customers, their email IDs, upload it to a platform, and then do a lookalike campaign to get more top-of-funnel users that the platform has decided that are like-minded. These are new capabilities, and the companies that will exploit it in a smart way, they will have an advantage over their competitors. So I would say from a marketing perspective, CRM marketing, very mobile-focused websites. 60% of traffic today is mobile. Don't think about it, we're going to have a great desktop website and we're going to use responsive design for mobile device. No, 60% is mobile. You have to think the other way around. We need to have a mobile-first experience designed exclusively for mobile, and then suddenly numbers will go up on mobile devices as well. So that would be my 2 cents.
Thank you. And I would say, I guess I just think about it in terms of probably for the duration of our careers, there are probably 2 major phases ahead of us. One is the maturation of mobile, meaning I think when we get to the end of our careers, we'll look back and feel like 2017 was still early days of mobile. 1, and then 2, whether it's AR, whether it's glasses, whether it's brain implants, there's a phase 2 is post-mobile, which I think we will get to in that time frame. And then, the Wild West starts all over again.
Brain implants, did you say? Some of us feel like we already have brain implants or wish we did.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks so much. I think we have time for probably one question from the audience. Yes, sir, Jake.
Sure, Mike. You talk a lot about content.
Mm-hmm.
How do you identify the value of content within attribution? So how do you decide, to invest more in content and compare it to other channels versus a paid channel?
Yeah. It's a great question, something we spend a lot of time on, and it's definitely one of those that is more of a mosaic than a silver bullet. But what I would say is we start from and this was a conversation when I was interviewing, we start from a shared understanding across the team that if you're going to be in a business where you're selling $4,000 sofas to people on their phones, and that is a once every 5 years purchase, you can't start at the bottom of the funnel. You have to believe in education, in engagement, there's another terrible buzzword, in staying top of mind over time and building a relationship. And so we start there, and then in terms of the role, we're constantly pushing on trying new things across the platforms, across content types, to understand how we can, we've already built a pretty significant content machine between editorial and photography, all the different ways we can leverage that, and increasingly pushing that offline as well as online, because we continue to see reasons to believe that offline is, I don't know if I'd say having a resurgence because it never went away, but belief that it will continue to be important, and as other people in the competitive field shift online and the mailbox or other IRL moments become less crowded, that creates opportunity.
How did IRL skip off of the millennial buzzword list? Please join me in giving a very warm round of applause to Leon and Michael. Thank you guys so much. Michael will be collecting resumes at the door. So.